All right, in just hours, Donald Trump is going to unveil what he says is a major economic plan in a speech in Detroit. Hillary Clinton says she's going to counter Trump's plan later this week, also in Detroit. We just got a copy of Donald Trump's highlights, what points he's going to make today, so let's discuss them. We have global affairs and economic analyst Ali Velshi and former lieutenant governor of New York and columnist for the New York Post, Betsy McCaughey. She supports Donald Trump. So this is very interesting that he put this out. One, smart. Gets him into the news cycle early on. He's nothing if not savvy. What's interesting in this is let's start with the points of contrast, okay? He states in here the differences between him and Hillary Clinton. And the first one is interesting, that Hillary Clinton accepts projections that we're only going to grow at 2% a year. She's an extension of the status quo. This is his big issue. Why?
That's right, because right now our economy is limping along at 1.2% growth, way below what some other countries are achieving. Ireland, for example, is growing at 8%. And a major reason for our very poor economy is high corporate tax rates. That is the most important part of Donald Trump's economic proposal, to slash corporate tax rates. Right now,
he says the top will be 15% for all businesses, large or small.
Large or small. Right now, American companies' nominal rate, 35%. They, in fact, pay about 27%, but that's compared with 20% in England, 15% in Canada, 12.5% in Ireland.
All right.
And so companies are rushing to those countries to do business, and our workers are losing jobs.
Ali Velshi, how do you see it?
Yeah, this is interesting what Betsy said, because this is where Trump is onto something. He's got a very pro-growth message. He also has a lot of tax cuts, and the math doesn't actually work on them. But as Betsy said, I'm in Toronto, where the tax rate has been reduced, the corporate tax rate to 15%, and it's actually been net positive. So this is something America has to do. It's got a higher tax rate than a lot of places, but a lot of companies don't pay those taxes. So if you want to lower the tax rate to 15%, you've got to apply it across the board, and that is something that requires tax code changes that are hard to achieve. Problem number two, Donald Trump's giving this speech in Detroit. It's got to be a populist message, including one about fighting TPP and other trade agreements. It's very hard to convince people that you're going to cut tax rates unless, as he proposes, you're also cutting personal tax rates. Now, his proposals there are very interesting, but they're very expensive and they're very hard to get done. That said, if he could do the things he proposes today, it actually could be pro-growth, which does make this an important speech for Trump.
And let me point out that Hillary Clinton's economic plan, which will be unveiled Thursday, includes business tax increases to pay for her infrastructure plans. And those business tax increases are projected to cost the economy growth and to cost jobs. For example, the Independent Tax Foundation predicts that Hillary Clinton's business tax hikes will cost 311,000 jobs and slice another 1% off our already very low growth in GDP. Moody's Analytics, another neutral source, has warned that Hillary Clinton's proposals will produce absolutely no increase in private sector investment, and that is the biggest problem.
But you have analysts,
right now,
Betsy, who beat up both plans, right? I mean, Ali, we just had somebody who Trump just brought on as a senior economic advisor say, well, his plan to reduce the deficit in 8 years, we probably won't be able to do that. I mean, part of this is pitching something that might be too good to be true.
That's obviously true, but if you look at what's wrong with our economy right now, we have 3 consecutive quarters of declining business investment. And when that happens, it costs us jobs. When businesses don't buy another truck, they can't hire another worker. When they don't buy another computer, they can't hire another office worker. And that is exactly what's happening. Despite the jobs numbers that came out Friday, it appears as if our economy is heading into a recession.
Ali, make a counterpoint.
That's just absolutely not true. It's just absolutely not true. It is not appearing that the U.S. economy is heading into a recession. That kind of logic doesn't apply. We've had greater jobs growth in the last few years than we have seen for decades. In fact, 255,000 net new jobs. So that's the problem with the argument. It's just not true that current policies are actually bad for the U.S. economy.
I'm dealing with the facts.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm only dealing with facts too. Did you see the jobs?
62.9%, the lowest in history.
The labor participation rate has been going down for years, much of which has to do with a population that is actively retiring. I don't disagree with you that that is the single biggest challenge, but Donald Trump has taken one of three economic indicators. There's the unemployment rate, there's the jobs lost and created, and there's the labor force participation rate. This one is the problem. It's the only one that he talks about. The other ones are actually quite positive. So you can't just pick and choose which parts of the economy you say are bad. There's an income inequality problem in America. There's not actually an overall economic growth issue in America.
Oh, my gosh. We are growing at 1.2%. If only we were growing at 8% like Ireland, then people would have a promising future.
We've never grown at 8%. Ireland and America are not even remotely similar
economies.
Oh, yes, they
are.
It's like when
Ireland
Greece was
in our situation
no, they're really
until
not.
they slashed their corporate tax rate. Canada, our next-door neighbor, is experiencing growth double the U.S. rate, because left and right got together and realized one thing we can't afford is a high corporate tax rate. And that's what we have to do in America, to realize that when we raise the corporate tax rate like Hillary wants to do and make corporations pay their fair share,
Betsy,
those who suffer are the workers who lose their jobs.
Betsy,
final point, Allie.
Betsy, you have my agreement on the corporate tax rates. I already told you that. I'm in Toronto right now. Absolutely, it works. The difference is Hillary Clinton, while her plan is not nearly as exciting, and she has a lot of explaining to do about her flipping on trade deals, the bottom line is she worked a little harder to get the math. She says if I want to offer all these great things, I've got to increase taxes. Donald Trump has said I'm going to lower taxes and I'm going to offer all these great things. It's a mathematics problem. It's not a policy problem.
Let's see how they get built out. This was good and helpful. It is good to have a debate from two minds that understand their position side. And Allie, always great to have your analysis.